All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to my session on lean content strategy for startups. I'm very happy that you're here with me today for the next 45 minutes. And I'm going to share my presentation with you. And then let's get started. Okay, so a short introduction of myself. Hi, my name is Dominik. I'm the founder and head of growth at the digital and growth marketing agency called Attention Fox. We are a remote agency, a boutique agency focusing on growth marketing. And over the past couple of years, I've been working with companies in various industries and of different sizes to grow their business with mostly outstanding content. And to begin with, I want to learn a bit more about you, and I will activate the pause here on the sidebar. So I want to know from you if you are currently working in content marketing. This is the first question that I'm interested in. And the second question is if you're currently working in a startup, since this session is especially for content strategy, lean content strategy for startups. And I see most of you voted for you are currently working in content marketing, which is great. And also a lot of the participants that are here are currently working in a startup. So that's great. So I hope you will get like the most value out of that session here. Also, despite if you're not working in a startup or in content yet. So to begin with, have you ever experienced content burnout, not only on a personal level, but also from a business perspective? Especially startups feel really overwhelmed when they content marketing. So they have to serve a quite demanding audience. They do have to compete against like an increasing amount of companies that are online in a global market. And most of the time, especially which is true for startups, they are working like with very limited resources. So what I'm meaning by that is that on the audience side, you're facing a content burnout because like the expectations of the audience are like increasing. So they expect like the best experience when they're consuming your content, but also the demand for content is higher than ever. So everyone, if you are going to buy new shoes, you're gonna look on the internet for them. Also, they expect you to be 24/7 available because like the internet never stops to work, of course. They also expect you, like Amazon and all the big global players, to be online all the time. On the competition side, blue oceans are very rare nowadays, and the pressure to compete is increasingly high. Also, there is like statistics from WordPress from 2020, 7.5 million blog posts are published every day. So this is insane, right? So the quantity is also massive, and not only the quantity, but also the quality, at least in terms of like the length of content. If we think of WordPress's stats in 2020, that average length of a blog post is over 1,200 words, which is quite a bit, right? And also the historical content is growing with the base of like companies producing more and more content. So there was a SEMrush study, the content marketing platform from 2020, and compared to 2019, 84% of companies have a content marketing strategy versus only 77% in 2019. So you see like a lot of competition is entering also like the content marketing. And the performance is also increasingly high. So the content from your competition gets better and better, and you have to keep up like with this content burnout or information overload. And also, of course, facing the internal perspective, you do have struggles, right? So you do have struggles with limited resources as a startup from a financial perspective, but also from a human resources perspective. You do have to keep up with the speed of the content, and sometimes you even lack like some kind of plan or strategy. And this brings me to lean content strategy, because like a strategic, well-planned approach to content could be the solution to this content burnout. So today I don't want to offer any like short-term hacks for more traffic, more leads, more sales, or any kind of magic pill, but I would rather offer you methods, a framework, and tools to grow your startup or your business by implementing a lean content strategy on the long term. So everything we talk about today is really like for a long-term success, and not like a magic pill that solves your problems like in a short time. So what is content strategy actually? And this is also like a disclaimer, because content strategists will hate my definition of content strategy here, because like on the topic content strategy, there are like different perspectives, right? So this is the ones like from marketing, the content marketing perspective, I would say. The perspectives from user experience, traditional content strategists would agree like more on a user experience oriented perspective. Also from information architecture, as well as like the editorial SEO side, and also the brand marketing side view on content strategy. And I really like the definition of Christina Halvorsen, which is like a well-known, renowned content strategist. And I'm sorry for that. Just lost my AirPod. So sorry for the interruption here. So we're good to go again, hopefully. So I like the definition of Christina Halvorsen. She says content strategy guides the creation, delivery, and governance of useful, usable content. And this is what like content strategy is also about, like from my perspective. So today I want to offer you a roadmap for successful content strategy in a startup, which is a lean approach that we, of course, like working in startups like, because it involves like not too many resources, right? So this is also the roadmap for the next 35 minutes. So these are the steps that I found useful in leveraging meaningful content for startups. So we will start with understanding your audience. Then we will talk about how to plan for success, how to produce great content and what great content actually means. And of course, it's also about like getting better like on a continuous basis. So we will also talk a bit about how to analyze and improve your content on the way. So it really starts with understanding your audience. So without the proper understanding of the needs of your audience, you won't be able to create meaningful content, right? So what I mean by that is that actually every successful company that you know is very likely very customer-centric. So think of the most successful companies out there like Amazon, Uber, Airbnb. All of those like disruptive companies are the most customer-centric ones actually. So you really need to understand your audience, and you also, of course, need like a product market fit in order to get started to create meaningful content. So if you do not know now whether you like customer centric or not, I would recommend you to just ask your customers, and the Net Promoter Score can be a good starting point. But always be sure to really ask your customers if they think that you are like a customer centric company or not. So like from a marketing perspective, what we usually do is to reflect our audiences. We create personas, and personas are a great tool, but they are usually quite time consuming to create. So you probably already have created a persona some time ago when you started like working in content marketing or SEO or any digital marketing area. And you know, like that it's like it takes some time to create your persona, not only like in terms of a workshop, because you have to sit down with your colleagues and so on, but also to get it really out there, like to have like a nice template and so on. And according to the Nielsen Norman Group, UX strategy consulting firm, and also provider of UX courses and a lot of content, the number one issue that personas are facing is that they are actually not used. So they are created with a lot of effort, from a time and financial perspective, but they are never used. And that's a problem that I want to tackle like with a tool that I will show you like in a bit. Before I want to jump into it, I want to know from you if you have ever created a persona before, and I will activate the poll for that right now. So I want to know from you if you have ever created a persona before. And I see some votes on yes. So most of you have created a persona before. And yeah, some more are coming in. That's great. Okay, cool. So as I've said, and you might know this from your own experience, personas are really a great tool. Don't get me wrong. They are a great tool to understand your audience better, but as I've said, they take a lot of time, and most often, like the Nielsen Norman Group also states, they're never used. So I want to propose a different approach to sophisticated personas, not a quick and dirty approach, but like a more lean approach that focuses on the most important elements to create outstanding content, and also to avoid any biases. Because like with personas, you're thinking a lot of personality and demographics, and actually this also creates a lot of biases like in your content if you follow that. And so I came up like with this 4 quadrants, which can be done like in 15 to 30 minutes quite easily, where you basically think of the background of your persona, the frustrations of your audience, of your persona, the goals, the objectives, and the fears or challenges. And to make it more clear, I want to assume that we are now like a startup developing a fitness app for a healthier lifestyle. And I'm actually the audience, I'm the persona. So I'm in the middle of the quadrants. So you can see here with the background, for example, we do not focus too much on personality and demographics. We just like state very simply what is the background of our audience. And I'm, for example, I might have gained like 10 kilograms of weight during the lockdown. And of course, this is like a challenge for me. And this raises a lot of frustration. So the next part, frustrations, the gyms will just reopen after summer, lack of commitment from my side, not enough space for home workouts. And of course, attached to that, there are a lot of fears like gaining even more weight and serious health problems. And so my goals with this, from this perspective, this app could be to get back into shape in a sustainable manner, and also to not spend too much time with workouts. And I think like with this very simple approach, we actually know already a lot about like our audience and what content we should produce for them, right? So we know their fears, we know their frustrations, their needs, and most importantly, their goals. And we do not focus too much on demographics, personalities, brands alike, and stuff like that. So now as we understand our audience better, we can start to plan the content for success. And I want to know from you now, and I will activate the poll again for that, if you have ever created a content plan before. So do you use some kind of content plan? Have you ever created a content plan before? And I do see some results. Yes, at least 3 votes for yes, you do use some kind of content plan, which is great, of course. 5 votes. Cool. Some vote for no. So you're still like up for it. That's good. Okay. So at the heart of every content-driven organization, I would say, is the content plan, or other call it also like editorial plan. So why should we think of a content plan? Why should we talk about like an editorial plan? So if you do not have a clear plan, you're basically set up for failure, right? So it's like with everything in life or business, if you do not have like a sound plan, you do not know where you're basically set up for failure, and you do not have like a clear direction. So the common issues I also see like in content planning are that very often content production happens ad hoc. So it basically goes like this. Okay, we have posted on Instagram not in a while, so let's create an Instagram post. We haven't posted on a blog for 2 weeks. Let's create a new post. So it always happens ad hoc because you are stressed and you do not have like a clear direction, right? Also, what could be a common pitfall is that you do not have clear business goals attached to your content. So you do not know the purpose of your content, and it's hard to sell content marketing, content production also inside your startup if you do not have like a clear goal and cannot measure the success. Also, if you produce content ad hoc, so just out of the moment, out of your head, it's like you're set up for inconsistent communication. So your communication won't be consistent if you do not have a plan, right? Also, without a content plan, it's not clear who's responsible for what. There is no ownership of the process. Most often, you do not actually have some kind of workflow or process, and this leads to a lot of frustration in your team, but also creates like frustration on the side of your users, on your audience, because actually you create meaningless content or the wrong content at the wrong time, at the wrong place. And as you see, I really like quadrants, and one solution to these common pitfalls could be to create a content compass. So I like to think of that like as a direction for your content, a very rough plan for your content that like basically guides you in the production, but also when you're trying to get better and better. So with this content compass, you can set yourself up for success, hopefully. So first of all, you start like with a SMART goal. You most probably already know what SMART goal is. It's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So you do have like a business goal for your content. Then you think of the different content types that you want to cover. A value statement for your content, but also maybe like for your company, and different channels you want to leverage for your content marketing initiatives. And I would recommend to, in general, see this like as a living document, also the persona that I've shown you before, and revisit it like on a monthly or quarterly basis. And thinking back to the fitness app, for home workouts and for more healthy lifestyle, we could set like a SMART goal, like let's generate 5,000 organic app downloads through outstanding content on a blog in 2021. This is a huge goal, but it is smart. It is specific. You can measure it, the 5,000 organic downloads. It's, I would say, attainable and realistic and time-bound by the end of 2021. If we think then, based on the goal, what content types could support us to attract like these 5,000 organic app downloads, we could think of creating maybe success stories of our app. So people using our app to lose weight, for example, or to build muscle. We could think of educational content around like nutrition topics, recipes, workouts, interviews, how-tos. So you see like what direction we're going with that. So the different types, forms of content that you want to produce on like, of course, a very rough level. Then, of course, you should think of the different channels that your audience is active and the channels that you can and want to leverage. And this could be social media channels, but also like own channels like a podcast, a blog, your website, or in that case, also in our app itself. So we could add here, for example, TikTok and Instagram as social media channels because we believe that's the right place to promote a fitness app. And last but not least, a value statement, not only for your content actually, but for your whole company, is here to inspire and motivate users to become the best version of themselves by offering like AI tailored workouts and meal plans. So that's like basically the value proposition of an app, but we can also use this value proposition when creating content because we want to inspire and motivate our audience. So now we have our compass, but we also need to get like more clear on the actual content that we want to produce, right? So another important concept that will help you to organize your content a fantastic way are pillars. And you might have heard of pillars, clusters, or some different pyramid type of concept before, but I would really emphasize on this because this is super helpful not only for your users to navigate easily through your website, but also for search engines to recognize you as an expert in your field. So the pillar cluster model was initially coined by HubSpot, the marketing automation CRM platform, some years ago. But there are also, like, as I said before, similar models described by SEOs and content marketers. So basically, the essence is that you select the topics on the right called pillars, in which you want to be known as an expert, as an authority. So you want to use these pillars to become like an authority in these topics. And this is actually your pillar page. So this can be seen as a library to showcase your top performing content. And this could be, for example, like in our case of the fitness app, the topic of home workouts, the topic of healthy nutrition, and the topic or pillar of better sleep. And around this topic, we would now produce more and more detailed content. So these are your cluster pages. And by linking those cluster pages to the pillar page and vice versa, we make it easy for search engines, but also for users to navigate like through the topics, through the pillars, and to understand your content better. But let's take a look at how this can be done. So let's assume that we have like one pillar, one main topic, and we have like three pieces of cluster content. And it would mean that we link from the cluster content to the pillar content and from the pillar content to the cluster content. And to make it more clear, let's assume that we are producing content around home workouts. This is our pillar. That's something we, for our app, want to be like perceived as an expert in. And now we could produce cluster content around high intensity interval home workouts. We could produce some detailed content on home workouts for beginners. We could produce some content around home workouts with resistance bands, for example. So each cluster page in that case for the pillar or home workouts focuses on providing more value and more details for a specific long tail keyword related to the main topic, if you want to see it from an SEO perspective, or if you want to see it like from a more user-centric perspective, you provide like more details, more value to the pillar in this cluster page. So knowing your content compass and knowing your pillars, you can go ahead and actually start creating an editorial plan. And a content plan or an editorial plan usually answers the who, the what, the where, the when, and the why of your content, right? So it saves you a lot of trouble because you always know what's up next. It also helps you to stay consistent because you do have like a pipeline of content that you want to produce next, and you do have like a good overview. And if I take a look at the poll, like from 70% of you are already using some kind of content plan. So this is great. And for the rest 30%, I would really encourage you to get this as a top priority for your business done as fast as possible. So the prerequisites for creating such an editorial or content plan, we can actually check them. We do have like our persona, or not quick and dirty, but or like minimalistic, lean persona. We do have our goals or smart goals or channels with the content compass. We do know the content types. We made some thoughts around it. And the last thing that we need is to be really sure around all resources, so to be clear on what we are capable of. So resources in terms of what skills do we have in the team? Can we produce videos? Can we produce blog posts? But also in terms of finances and human resources, manpower, to think of, okay, what's possible to create in 1 week, in 1 month, in 1 year? Do we have enough people to create the velocity of content that we are facing? And so the resources are something that's important to keep in mind. You should be, of course, you should really aim for high goals here, but also, of course, you should be realistic. And what I see with a lot of editorial plans is that it's easy to get distracted with like shiny objects, with the shiny object syndrome. So don't get me wrong, it's great to have a well set up editorial plan. But if you cannot stick to it and if you lose track, I would really recommend to make it easier, to make it more simple, so that you can also stick to it and that it's easy to use. So I've seen startups with fancy content calendars that have never been implemented. So a content plan is here to be implemented. And by making it easier, I think of focusing on basically these 8 to 10 elements that you should cover with your content plan. So the first thing that we always need to know is some kind of working title or title for the content that you produce. The pillar, I've covered the pillars before. So be clear around like the topic that you want to cover and how it links like to existing content on your website. If you want to like work also SEO driven, think of the main keyword of this particular content piece. And if you work like with more than one author, also think of course of the author. Usually you need some kind of status, like is it like planned? Does it need like a brief, or is it currently like in production? Is it published? Is it under review, rejected? This depends on your resources and workflows, but I would recommend to add some kind of status, like just in draft and published. That's actually a good start. Then, of course, also add a publishing date. So when do you want to publish your piece of content? Then what I would also recommend is to be really certain about the funnel phase of or the buyer's phase of the content you're producing. So are people actually at the moment in the awareness phase? Do they need like some high-level content around like the problem space, or are they already like in the consideration phase, and do you want to offer like more specific problem-solving content to them, or do you want to really convince them to buy your products or services in the decision stage? And with the funnel phases, I want to add one thing. Don't think of customers as an output of your funnel, but rather think of them, again, customer-centric. Think of them as an input to your company. So also think of content to retain your customers, to make them happy. So for a fitness app, also to think of how can we keep them on the platform in our app, not only focusing on acquiring new customers. Especially in times with increasing acquisition costs, it's important to focus on retention. Also think about the content that you produce for existing customers, and how to maybe turn them into ambassadors and loyal customers of yours. Last but not least, also think about like the distribution. And by distribution, I mean, how do you wanna use your content, distribute your content to your audience? So do you want to post it on social media? Do you want to distribute it through your newsletter? So what actually happens after producing and publishing your content? What is happening to this content piece? Because sometimes we produce really great, we put great content, we put a lot of effort into it, and then we forget about it. So we do not actually distribute it. So this is a lot of potential here for a lot of startups and companies to take a look at the existing content that is already there, that is performing well, but to think of distributing it to your audience on social media, but not only on social media, also on your own channels. Maybe you do have an app, a platform, wherever. So think also of the distribution, so it doesn't end with publishing your content. And something that I would see like as optional is the content type. So if you do have more than one content type, of course you should include it. So is it educational content? Is it a podcast? Is it a video? Or is it like a success story? Add it to your content plan, of course. And if you do have more than one persona, I would also add like the persona as an element to your content plan. And there are hundreds of tools out there that you can use to create your editorial plan. So for example, Notion is really increasing in popularity, but you can also use Trello, or you can just go for a very simple Google Sheet like the template below. So make it as easy as possible to use, and make it easy also to stick to it. And if you know any other tools to create a content plan, please feel free to also add them to the chat so that we can also get like some ideas on what tools to use. But a tool is just a tool. Remember that a fool with a tool is still a fool. And as I've said multiple times already, creating content, outstanding content, great content takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of resources. And that's why we should always not only keep in mind the distribution, but also we should keep in mind that we can repurpose a content to extend its value. So reduce, reuse, recycle is also a concept that can be applied to content. For today, I want to focus on repurposing. So with repurposing, you actually change content to serve like a different purpose than its original one. So it will help you to reach a new audience, scale your content. It's also another opportunity to rank better from SEO perspective. And it also helps you to leverage really like your evergreen, ever performing content. And for example, with an evergreen blog post, if we have identified a blog post as an evergreen content, we could create like an infographic based on the blog post. We could integrate like the content of the blog post in some kind of animated video. We could create a podcast based on it. And even with the infographic, we can repurpose the infographic itself to a social media post or integrate it in a newsletter. So it doesn't end with the next step here. And if you want to repurpose content intentionally from the beginning, you can think of hero content. So this is similar to the pillar concept, but with hero content, I mean like really content that you put a lot of effort into, like an interview. So you could record an interview and then think of already during the production, how we're going to use this piece of content. So are we going to use it for the interview, for example, for a blog post? So will we do like some kind of transcription? Will we integrate it? Will we also shoot a video and record it as a podcast simultaneously so that we can publish it on podcast platforms and on YouTube and other social media channels as well? And then we could even think of, okay, with the podcast or also with the YouTube video, how can we identify snackable content within the interview that we post as like short clips on social media, or that we also embed in some of our existing content. And thinking back to our fitness app, we could invite an expert on, for example, for an interview on interval fasting 101. And during this interview, we recorded also with a video cam, and we also transcribe it afterwards and repurpose it for a blog post. And then we could use like snippets from the interview, video and audio, for social media. And that's easy, right? So that's actually an easy strategy, tactic for hero content to repurpose it and really make like the most out of it. So take really advantage of the efforts that you put into it. And another perspective on repurposing content is micro content. This is a content that is, for example, heavily used by Gary Vaynerchuk, that you might know, a very famous social media digital marketer entrepreneur. And with that, you create high quality long form content. This is really like your outstanding great content, and then you turn it into micro content, small pieces that you adapt to different platforms. So again, like an interview, and then you take like a micro content out of it for Instagram, for YouTube. You make quotes, you do like short audio snippets, video snippets, you do like take like short sections out of the interview, put it on your website, etc. All right, so finally, we also need to produce the content, right? So a common challenge is the definition of great content. So what is actually great content? And the answer will really depend on whom you ask. So SEOs, content strategists, content marketers, traditional marketers will have different perspectives on that. But I think we can agree that the sweet spot lies in between these three factors. So great content really lies like in this unicorn in the middle, where your expertise, so the things that you're really good at, matches an addressable competition and the needs of your audience. Of course, you do need to address the needs of your audience on the one hand, but you should also be an expert in it, right? So if we produce like a content for a fitness app again, then of course we do need to be experts in that. And by addressable competition, I mean like, is there search volume? Is there, are there like other competitors in the market? So can we do better than them? And go like really for the sweet spot of low competition, high volume, high needs, and a good expertise from your side. And to make it really short on how to produce great content, I like to refer to the book Epic Content Marketing from Joe Pulizzi, who came up with like basically six factors, 6 rules for producing great content. And the first one is to fill a need. As I've said, you do have to you need to really fulfill like a customer's need, be useful, be consistent, commit. Your content plan will help with that. Be human, be yourself, be authentic, have a point of view, avoid sales speak. So content marketing is all about providing value, not only educational content, I would say, but also inspirational, motivational content. So be sure really to provide value and not always sell your product or services. And I think the last point is actually the most important one, to try to be the best of your breed. So to thrive, really to become an expert in your niche. And last but not least, we do need to really continuously analyze and improve your content, right? So I've seen a lot of startups producing content at scale and never taking a look at like Google Analytics, their stats, never taking the time to analyze the results. So the problem is usually KPI overload. So, and actually you do not know how and where to measure, right? So there are so many things you could measure: page views, time on site, bounce rate, click-through rate, influence, social shares, scroll depth, whatever. There's so many KPIs out there, and everyone tells you to measure something different. And if you do not know what to measure, how to measure, and where to measure, it's also difficult, of course, to draw conclusions, especially when you're starting out. And there are 2 great concepts from growth hacking, from growth marketing, that can be applied here. And these are the North Star metrics and the 1 metric that matters. You can Google it. So you can use this concept to draw conclusions around your content strategy. So the North Star metric is usually set like on a company level. So this is true for the whole company. So this is like the thing that you're striving for, you're aiming for. So this could be for Airbnb, for example, the booked nights. But the 1 metric that matters depends actually on your perspective on your department or team. So for performance marketing team, it will be different than for the content marketing team, than for the development product team, for example. And from a content perspective, you should definitely know the North Star metric, and then choose one metric that really matters and that also contributes to this North Star metric. And thinking back to the fitness app, we could set like as a North Star metric, which is pretty common with apps, monthly active users. And the product team, for example, could have the one metric that matters, user retention. The performance team could have app installs, but we as a content team, we could focus on the number of returning users, for example, number of return visitors to our website, blog, whatever we do have in place. Because this is like a measure. It tells us if people are loyal, coming back, if they enjoy reading and consuming our content. Finally, you really need to embrace that it's a process. So you need to understand that it's not like set in stone. Your strategy is never something that is set in stone, that is written in stone. You have to keep it flexible, agile. So usually you start like with the content compass that I've shown you before, like some kind of strategizing. Then you, of course, transfer it to an editorial plan, prioritize if needed. And then you create like the great content that we have been talking like for over the last 35 minutes. And like what I want to emphasize here is really to not forget about like the analysis, to not forget about like auditing your content on a regular basis, see what works best, see what doesn't work, and to also implement those learnings and getting like better and better over time. So really embrace it, that it's like a learning process, adapt like really this growth mindset also with content. And now it's really your turn. I would love to see you taking action and getting the results with content that you deserve. And I have like here 7 steps that could be implemented in the next 24 hours. Not all of them, but most of them. So I would really encourage you to get started. First of all, build your minimalistic persona, identify the pillars you want to like be an expert in, think about your content compass, create an editorial plan and stick to it. Plan also for at least 1 month ahead. Repurpose 1 content per week at least. You could aim for that. Set the one metric that matters. Be sure about your focus, what you're like also contributing to the success of your company. And analyze at least quarterly. So document, improve, and continue to learn. So these are like the next action steps for you. And if you do want to get like the templates that I've mentioned in the short session here, and also the presentation, I would like to invite you to go to this URL here on screen, or just scan the QR code with your mobile phone, with your smartphone. And yeah, before we head into the Q&A, I will give you some time for that, and we'll also put like the link into the chat. And then I will switch to the Q&A and see if there are any questions, because we still have like at least 2 minutes left for any of your questions. And I will also put like the link in the chat so that you can receive templates if you're interested. So let's see if there are any questions. No Q&A so far. Let's see in the chat. Notion, yeah. What's the first tool? Yeah, it was Notion. Good guide. Thank you. Thank you. Very useful formula. Thanks. Excellent presentation. Great resources. Thank you so much. Very useful. Thank you. Really appreciate it. And there's one question in the Q&A, and we do have like 1 minute left. In times of remote work, what program do you use to record the interviews? How do you transcribe it? And how do you know which content to spread on other channels? So for the interviews, of course, like in terms of remote work, it's really hard to produce high quality video content for interviews, but I would recommend to maybe stick to a platform that you already know, like Zoom Recorded. There are also like other tools that are like specifically for recording interviews online. You can Google that. I'm sure you will find that. How you transcribe it? Yeah, usually we'll like as a human do not use any like machine translation, because you do wanna transcribe it really by hand and add like some notes, add like some context, add some value to the interview. And how to spread in other channels? Yeah, you can use it for Instagram, for YouTube, whatever. Use snippets, use snackable content. And yeah, I hope that was a good answer. And yeah, we're already over time. So thank you so much for being with me the last 40 minutes. I hope you have enjoyed my content. And if you want to stay connected, I'm happy to connect on LinkedIn, continue the conversations there. And I would wish you a great afternoon. Enjoy the conference with the great topics. And again, thank you so much, and hope to see you around the web.